Okay, where are our English connoisseurs? Yes, brother Yahya, tell us. Lexical inexplicitness. Try to say that 10 times in a row. Lexical inexplicitness. What does that mean? So, yes?
You said, brother Yahya, I don't know which one.
Which one? There's another Yahya.
But it's not that it's implicit, that the message is like mutashabih.
It's right, it's not explicit, right? Lexical inexplicitness, lexical meaning of the meanings of the terms. You will find some of those verses where there is that lexical inexplicitness, meaning that the verse or the phrase or the word is not explicit. It could have more than one meaning. Part of the i'jaz of the Quran. And this is part of the answer to why wasn't it seen or understood as i'jaz then? This is why. Because it's inexplicit, it can have more than one meaning. And they may have understood it in a certain way, which is absolutely correct. But there's another meaning which then could not be fathomed or possible, which now can. And therefore, we see the scientific i'jaz of that phrase or word or verse, the scientific indication. Again, examples will clarify it, inshallah, but this is a very important point. How many speak Arabic in the audience? Raise your hand. We have some Arabic speakers. I have a journal article, okay, on this issue, okay? It's a complete article on this issue. It is very interesting and very exciting. If these are things that interest you, it's written in Arabic. So, if we do an inductive analysis of the Quran and the scientific indications, verses which we may consider have scientific i'jaz, we may find, as I claim, Wallahu a'lam, that they may be categorized into 3 categories. That all, if you look at all of the verses that contain scientific i'jaz. Number 1, it is of the category of mujmal. And if you have studied the sciences of the Quran, you know what that means. Mujmal, meaning in this case that it is inexplicit, as we just mentioned. And it can have more than one meaning. Next. The other category, interestingly, is where the meaning is actually explicit. We know what that word means. We know what that phrase means. It's quite clear. But it has undiscovered dimensions. So if you ask an Arab, what does this word mean? He'll tell you quite clearly. But what does it mean in the context of the verse? That's a different issue. Should I give an example? The third category, metaphors and examples. So the Quran is full of metaphors, right? And examples. Allah is giving examples. He'll give you an example of this or an example of that. Different things. And you may see that the emphasis is on a certain meaning, and it is. It's being given as an example for this topic or this issue. But buried within it are scientific indications. All of these, as you see, have in common that scientific indication is somehow hidden there, and you cannot quite see it. And that's why it becomes clearer later on when the science is there to explain it. A lot of the scientific i'jaz could not have been discovered before because the science wasn't there, as we will see when we get to cosmology and embryology. Can someone give me an example of an ayah in the Quran that has scientific i'jaz? Yes, brother.
بلا قادرين على أن نسوي بنان.
Okay, barakallah feek. بلا قادرين على أن نسوي بنانا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here presents an argument against the disbelievers, those who disbelieve in the Day of Judgment, those who disbelieve in the Day of Resurrection and the fact that Allah Azza wa Jal will resurrect all people to be held accountable on the Day of Judgment. He tells them, yes, it is so. And to prove it, he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is able to أن يسوي, and I will keep that word يسوي, okay? Because يسوي may have more than one meaning. To just translate it immediately may not be the smartest thing. And this is something I speak about as well when talking about the translation of the Quran. أن نسوي بنانه. Banana, his finger. This ayah is understood, especially in the context of modern science today, to be talking about the fingerprint. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that He is able to produce, proportion al-banan, the finger, it is talking about the fingerprint. Because it's not the whole finger, it is the banan. So, He's talking about the fingerprint. The fingerprint today is a very important part of the science. When scientists discovered that the fingerprint is so unique that they can use it to identify people. Subhanallah, billions of human beings around the world, every person has a unique fingerprint, even though it's such a small area. But you can make it unique for billions of people. Subhanallah, this is part of the science that Allah Azza wa Jal, this is the creation, right? So here, this is an ayah that has scientific i'jaz. Which category is it, brother? Where would you put it in terms of the three over here? Mujmal? It's inexplicit. Explicit.
But undiscovered.
Yeah, interesting. So now we have a difference of opinion. Definitely not a metaphor, but yes, is it explicit or is it inexplicit? Banan is well known. Nusawiya is also fairly known, the meaning of taswiya. Okay? It may be closer to explicit, but with undiscovered dimensions. What exactly does it mean? Nusawiya banana. And then we have discovered the uniqueness of the fingerprint, right? The inexplicit is a little bit different, and I'll give you an example. So this is a beautiful example, brother. Barakallah feek. Yes, the next one. Next scientific verse that has i'jaz. Yes, brother. Okay, Jazakallah khair. وَالْأَرْضَ فَرَشْنَاهَا فَنِعْمَ الْمَاهِدُونَ. Talking about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala flattened the earth functionally for us, right? Not in reality, but functionally, right? Because we know the earth is not flat, but actually the earth is a sphere or an oval. So where does the ayah belong there? Amongst these three categories? Is it explicit or is it inexplicit? It's clearly not a metaphor, right?
Explicit.
Explicit, وَالْأَرْضَ فَرَشْنَاهَا. Okay. The meaning is quite well known, probably explicit, but with undiscovered dimensions. Mind you, a lot of people understood that in the past, that the earth is flat. Right? But then we discovered that the flatness is functional. It's not an actual flatness. So, if you walk, you won't just keep walking on the earth forever. If you walk, you will make a whole circle and you'll be back where you started, right? So, can we maybe suggest another ayah Scientific ijaz, yes brother? Okay, يجعل صدره ضيقا حرجا. Very nice. Where does that belong? This is talking about the constriction of the chest when human beings go up and are elevated, right? Something that we couldn't have understood until the advent of aviation, right? Where does that belong? Explicit, but undiscovered dimensions. At the time, it would have been like يجعل صدره ضيقا حرجا كأنما يصعد في السماء. Well, people weren't being elevated into the heavens then. So what exactly did that mean to them? Maybe they understood it metaphorically to a large extent. That the constriction of the heart because of disbelief. So actually here, is this a metaphor? Can you say the whole ayah from the beginning? يجعل صدره. So actually this is more like a metaphor or an example, right? Because he's talking about guidance and misguidance. It's not, the focus doesn't seem to be the scientific indication. If Allah misguides someone, then his chest will be constricted like this, as if he is rising in the heavens. So there you go. The example, you think, okay, the focus is on guidance and misguidance, not on the constricting chest. But then we discover, subhanallah, as if he is going up in the heavens. And this is what we discovered, indeed, actually, will furnish a physical constriction, right? Because of the phenomena of air pressure, right? Something that was discovered. The mujmal or the inexplicit may be words that truly have several different meanings. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the noble Quran, أعوذ من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فلا أقسم There are different ones. بالخنس الجوار الكنس. Now go to an Arabic speaker on the street, maybe not in Malaysia, and say, brother, what is al-khunnas? He'll be like, what? He's an Arabic speaker. What is khunnas? Don't you know Arabic? No, he knows Arabic, but he doesn't know what khunnas is. Because it's inexplicit. He might know khanasa, the verb khanasa, but al-khunnas, those that disappear, those that are disappearing, what exactly does that mean? You read the tafsir, different opinions of scholars, because it's inexplicit, of the Sahaba and the Tabi'een, different opinions. And nowadays, what do scholars say with regards to al-khunnas? Seems to be a reference to, wallahu a'lam, what? To black holes. Al-jawari al-kunnas. These gigantic brooms that eat up everything in their sight, right? Al-khunnas, al-jawari al-kunnas. They are khunnas in the sense that they cannot be seen. Because light cannot escape them. Be careful, black hole is a misnomer. And astronomers admit that. A black hole is not actually a hole, it's the other way around. Because a hole means there's no matter there. The black hole is the area of the most density. The highest density of matter is in a black hole. Right? But they called it a black hole because it eats up everything in its sight. So this may be a reference, wallahu a'lam, to black holes. Al-khunnas, al-jawar al-kunnas. This is an example of inexplicit, mujmal. And let me just conclude, and there are many other examples of course, but let me just conclude by saying that this is part of the importance of dealing with scientific i'jaz, brothers and sisters, is that we always say, Wallahu a'lam. We are dealing with the tafsir of the Quran. We are dealing with the explanation of the words of Allah. It is not to be played around with. So we have to be very careful. We say it seems that this is what is being mentioned. It seems that this is what is being referenced. Because science is ever changing. Because scientists will discover things and then undiscover and say they were wrong, and you will see that as we go on in the presentation. So when we say that an ayah is talking about this, or this is what the tafsir of the ayah is, we leave that room, okay? Because we are doing, or we are talking about the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is not correct to just say, oh, this is what it means exactly, and everything else is incorrect, and maybe you will eliminate, centuries of tafsir because of what you are seeing of a scientific indication. This is not the way to do it either. In fact, the beauty and the i'jaz of the Quran is that those meanings that were expressed by the Sahaba and the Tabi'een are absolutely correct. But now we are also discovering new aspects of i'jaz of the Quran. Because this is one of the very important characteristics of the Quran, is that it has a renewable i'jaz all the way up until the Day of Judgment. It is the intellectual miracle, as Imam al-Suyuti says. Because it is the last testament. Therefore, how suitable it is that the Quran have that characteristic, that it is a renewing i'jaz, a renewable i'jaz. It's not just a miracle that happened at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, it was revealed and it is finished, right? But rather, it is the intellectual miracle that will continue to inspire for many ages to come until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inherits the earth and everything on it.
You mentioned about how in the past there were a lot of polymath in the Islamic world.
Yes.
So we had scholars who were specialized in Sharia as well as maybe astronomy, mathematics as well. But nowadays we don't really see any Islamic scholars who are specialized in other fields of science. So in the past few hundred years, what do you think has caused that change that has resulted in this?
Okay, Jazakallahu khairan. With the, let's say, the advent of the information age, more and more science has been discovered, let's say, in the last maybe century or two than many centuries ago. We are living in a scientific age, okay, by every means of the word, because science is advancing so rapidly, and it wasn't the case before. So, as the science developed, human beings were overwhelmed by the amount of discoveries and things that we were learning about. And it seems that it became more and more difficult with time to have a knowledge of it all because of the amount of information. Okay? The plethora of discoveries that we were making in all different fields. So gradually, more and more people became specialized. I think one of the very clear examples is medicine. So, if you go nowadays to an eye doctor and you're asking them to tell you why you have some, problems in your digestive system, they'll say you're crazy, right? Or you go to an ENT and you ask them to fix, the sprain in your arm. It's all about specialization. It's actually today's specialization within specialization. So, you know, like the eye doctor, there's no such thing as an eye doctor, period. You know, this guy is specialized in the retina, this guy is specialized in the cornea, this guy is specialized in this surgery, something else. It's all about specialization. So it seems like we live in an age of specialization. And more, people's knowledge became more specialized in that way. Is that a good or a bad thing? That's an interesting debate. I'll tell you a little anecdote. When I was doing my master's, I chose to take a subject, and incidentally it was tafsir. So I chose it, I went, I sat down. Very nice and good friend of mine now, a professor was giving that subject. Sat in class, and the professor asks people to introduce themselves, and all of a sudden I realized I chose a PhD class, and I'm doing my master's. So it was my turn to introduce myself, so I raised my hand and I said, I apologize, it seems I'm in the wrong class. I'm a master's student, but I chose a PhD class. And after I finish this introduction, I will respectfully leave. And the professor said, you're not going anywhere. So I attended the whole lecture, okay, for that PhD class. It was interesting. And one of the issues that the professor brought about was this, the issue of specialization and general knowledge. And he asked the students, what do you think? Which is better? Which is more important now? Having a breadth of knowledge, like the polymaths, or specialization? And the students gave their different opinions. At the time, the professor gave his opinion as well, and he talked about the importance of specialization. Okay, and that we live in an age of specialization and the importance of being specialized and an expert in that specific field that you are in, and so on and so forth. A few years later, I took the same class, but as a PhD student, right? And the professor actually asked the same question. Very interesting. Students offered their opinions, and I offered mine. And then the professor also aptly gave us his opinion, and he said, no, you must have a breadth of knowledge, and you must have very broad knowledge, and they were polymaths and this and that. I said, subhanallah. So I went to the professor after class, not in front of the whole class. I went to him in his office. I said, Prof, you remember a few years ago, I attended your class, and you said specialization, and now you're saying breadth of knowledge, and he just broke in laughter. He's like, yes, brother, I changed my opinion. When I thought about it, I saw the importance of having a breadth of knowledge. And we live in a time where the ability to gain a breadth of knowledge is there. And we have the internet and this and that. And the importance of interdisciplinary knowledge and interdisciplinary education and all of that great stuff. And I said, subhanallah. It also goes to show you that some of these issues are debatable. It's not an issue of wahi. There's not, a Quranic injunction. It has to be this or it has to be that. So he saw otherwise. Maybe also with time and seeing the students and their opinions and the experience, he changed his opinion, subhanallah. I think he forgot that I heard him say the exact opposite, but it just goes to show you that science itself is an ongoing experiment, if you will. Yeah. Allahu a'lam. Alaikum salam.
I just call to you to this time. Toledo translate Arabic to quick right.
Yes.
Means that Toledo can speak English and expert in Arabic.
No, meaning in Toledo, sister, Islamic civilization flourished in Spain. Okay, for a good 8 centuries or so. one of the greatest civilizations the world has seen was Islamic civilization in Spain, okay, in Al-Andalus. And Toledo is one of them. We have a brother here who can tell us more about Spain and Islamic civilization in Spain. Basically, the efforts that were going on there were incredible, especially for that time, where all you saw all around the world were wars and battles and the dark ages in Europe. Meanwhile, Islam and Islamic civilization was spreading the light to the world from Al-Andalus. Okay, so there were so many scientists, Muslim scientists, non-Muslim scientists collaborating, having research projects. Many of the non-Muslim scientists at the time flourished in Al-Andalus. Christians and Jews and you name it. Okay, يعني when you talk about Moses Maimonides, Musa ibn Maymun, a great Jewish scholar. Where? In Andalusia. Okay, in Muslim Spain. This is where he achieved such an amazing reputation. So there was so much going on in terms of science, in terms of translation efforts, where old Greek books were being translated to Arabic. And later on, Arabic books of science were then translated into Latin. So there was so much science going on in Al-Andalus, okay? And this is what I was referring to in that point. Now, let's talk about a particular aspect of i'jaz in the Quran. And this is issues pertaining to astronomy and cosmology. Truly breathtaking and incredible aspects of the science that scientists are doing today. Have you thought about the vastness of the universe? How big is it? How expansive is it? Can you give me an idea of how big the universe is? Okay, what about the unit of measurement? What are we talking about? Just like kilometers? Oh, light years. Thank you, mashallah, light year. But what's a light year?
Light take travel in space. Like from sun to earth is almost around 8 minutes, something like that.
Okay, all right, very nice. So a light year is what?
It's a measurement of measuring distance in space.
Absolutely, very nice. But because it's called a year, so a light year is what?
Again, light is taking that much years to travel to that distance.
Right, so a light year is the distance that light travels in a whole year.
Yes.
It's amazing, right? Because light, as you know, is the fastest object, fastest speed, has the fastest speed in the universe. So we're not talking about billions of kilometers. That's nothing. Billions of kilometers, you cannot measure the expanse of space in billions of kilometers. Okay, it's much more expansive than that. We're talking about billions of light years. Ya Allah. So a light year is the distance that light will travel in a whole year. So that means it's a distance. We can calculate it. Has anyone calculated it or tried to calculate? Of course not. You just Google it. Why would you calculate it? Well, I calculated it. And I'll present it to you. This is a light year. You see all those numbers? 945425495554888. This is not somebody's phone number. It's not somebody's ID card. It is a light year. Okay? And that translates to approximately 9.5 trillion kilometers. What? One light year. It's incredible. Allahu Akbar. 1 light year is equal to approximately 9.5 trillion kilometers. That's how much of the universe light will traverse in 1 year. So we might be thinking to ourselves, okay, great. So we'll just measure in light years. So the universe might be 10 light years, 20 light years, 100 light years, 1,000 light years. No. There's actually billions of light years. So that translates to billions of trillions of kilometers. We're talking science now, we're not just making this up. If you're talking about billions of light years, you're essentially talking about billions of trillions of kilometers. That's how we measure the vastness of space. Allahu Akbar. It's mind-boggling. The mind almost cannot fathom it, right? Another way to understand, yes sister, the speed of light. Every one of you have studied this in physics, I'm sure. 300,000 kilometers per second. 1 second, light has already traversed 300,000 kilometers. That's how it can traverse about 9.5 trillion kilometers in a year. It's the fastest thing in existence, right? At least that we know of. There. So 7.5 times around the earth in 1 second. Light will go around the earth 7.5 times in 1 second. That's how fast it is. Yes, sister, next one. One of the most distant objects in the universe that scientists talk about is a galaxy or a star that is over 13.4 billion light years away. That's how they define the distance. The most distant objects in space. For a long time, and I was kind of disappointed because I used it as one of my usernames. GNZ11 was the champion. Now, with the James Webb telescope and further technology, they're able to peer even deeper into space. So now the champion is JADE's GS-Z13-0. Again, approximately 13.5 billion light years away, but more than GN-Z11. The most distant object identified in the universe. Subhanak ya Rabb. Can't imagine. Billions of light years away. Yes. The breathtaking new pictures that the James Webb telescope is showing us. I believe this is called is it the Cartwheel Nebula, I think, or galaxy? Amazing pictures. Next one. This is also another amazing picture captured by the James Webb telescope. Go ahead, let's look at this video. This is, click the video, sister, go back. Yeah, click that video, please. This is zooming in on a planetary nebula, just to, try to fathom and understand this amazing universe that we live in. So this is zooming in slowly on, or very quickly maybe, onto this planetary nebula. So here you're talking about billions of light years. Subhanak ya Rabb. It's incredible. Allahu Akbar. Next. This is another amazing picture. I believe this is the Tarantula. They call it the Tarantula Nebula. Another one of the pictures by the James Webb Space Telescope. Again, the things they're seeing is just mind-boggling. And what we're seeing is only part of it, right? So, for a long time, we thought we had seen it all. And then as the tools develop, we see more and more, and we just think, Ya Allah, what else are we going to discover? And we remember the saying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. You have not been given of knowledge but little. We keep discovering more and more. Next, sister. This is a typical picture of the expansion of the universe and the Big Bang. Okay, the Big Bang explosion in the very beginning, and then the first stages, and then how the universe was formed and expanded over the course of what they say is 13.7 billion years. Usually they designate the age of the universe as 13.7 or 13.8 billion years. How accurate that is, Allahu A'lam, it's something that we need to keep an eye on. Yes, sister. The Journal of Science is not a children's journal. It's a very advanced journal. Okay? In fact, it is the journal of the American Association for the Advancement of Science. In 1998, they considered this the breakthrough of the year, that the universe will keep expanding. What does this mean? It means that the expansion of the universe is accelerating. That's why you see there it says the accelerating universe. This is because the expansion of the universe, as profound as that is, was actually discovered early on in the 20th century. Still very recent, comparatively, right? But when we think about it, we think, oh, that was almost a century ago. They realized that the universe is expanding then. But what they didn't realize is that the expansion is accelerating. It's an accelerating expansion. How many took physics? Probably everyone here. Raise your hand. Everyone took physics. So acceleration. We're talking about a rate of change, right? So if I do this, the universe is expanding. Is this constant or is this accelerating? This is constant. Accelerating is more like this, right? There's an acceleration. There's a rate of change, right? There's a derivative. So in 1998, some scientists working on calculating the expansion of the universe discovered that the universe is actually expanding at an accelerating rate. And this is why science considered it the breakthrough of the year in 1998. And if it's an accelerating expansion, it means it's going to continue expanding, right? That's the idea behind it. Even if it was a constant, we might say, okay, it will keep expanding. This is why, yes, next sister, these three scientists got the Nobel Prize in 2011 for physics. Okay? Saul Perlmutter, Brian Schmidt, and Adam Rees. So they were the ones who discovered in 98 that actually the universe is expanding at an accelerating rate. And they deserved the Nobel Prize, which they got in 2011. Next, sister. Serendipity? Yes, brother? Nice word. We have a linguist here. Serendipity, everyone? Shall I explain it, or does it need explaining? Needs explaining. Serendipity, by the way, any people here from Sri Lanka? Look it up, brother. I think you'll find it very interesting. Serendipity is basically discovering something by mistake. Going after something and finding something else. What does that mean? It means these three scholars were not looking for an accelerating universe, believe it or not. They were looking for a decelerating universe. They were trying to prove that the expansion of the universe is decelerating. So it's expanding, but at a decelerating rate, which means eventually it's going to stop and possibly contract. And they discovered the opposite, to their surprise. It's actually accelerating. It's an accelerating expansion. And for that, they got the Nobel Prize. And this is why I say it was ultimately serendipitous. Next, sister. So what do you think? Does that mean that the expanding universe, accelerating expansion, is it intuitive? Think about it for a sec. Is it logical? Yeah. Maybe even without the data, we could have said, yeah, of course, the universe is expanding. Makes sense. Big bang, huge explosion. So, universe expanded and it's continuing to expand. What do you think? Intuitive or non-intuitive? Logical or illogical? No, not logical. Doesn't make sense. It's weird. Anybody say no, it makes sense, it's intuitive? Yes, physicists. Do we have physicists in the audience? No physicists? Too bad. Astronomers, cosmologists, no? Einstein, warped space-time, right? General relativity. General relativity. How early? How old, approximately? Early 20th century, right? Actually, during the time of the First World War, 1915, right? 1917. Einstein and general relativity, yes, sister. Okay. What does that have to do with the expansion of the universe? Next. Next. Yes, scientists, please identify the symbol on the screen. Anybody? No? Subhanallah. You haven't seen it over and over in your dreams? No? Okay, maybe the next one you'll know. Ah, lambda. Our favorite lambda, right? The one on top is capital lambda, so they're both the same essentially. It means different things to different people, depends on the science that you're in, right? Lambda. Next. Yikes. What is that? Anyone? Anyone know this equation? Did you guys take quantum physics? No? General relativity? No? You don't take it in physics? Quantum or Einstein's equations? No? Okay, so this is Einstein's field equations. Next, sister. Einstein's field equations. Okay. This is essentially the equation of general relativity. Yeah? And you see lambda there. But lambda wasn't there before. Lambda is something Einstein inserted into the equation. But why on earth would he do that?